in the firmament of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. Look how time is being organized. First space is organized, and now time is organized. And let them be lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, the sun, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. Of course, they believed that the moon was a source of light. We know now it just reflects the light of the sun around the earth, but they believed there were two sources in those days. And he made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light upon the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good, and there was evening and there was morning, a fourth day. So orderly space emerges from chaos, and now orderly time. And God said, let the waters bring forth swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth, the fish and the birds, across the firmament of the heavens. So God created the great sea monsters, and every living creature that moves, with which the waters swarm, according to their kinds, everything in its order, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good, and God blessed them, saying, look at the relationship between birds and fish, which science endorses today. And God saw that it was good, or at least reptiles. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply. The first command, reproduce your kind sexually. I don't produce that way, but you must. Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth. And there was evening, and there was morning, a fifth day. So now you have the fish and the birds, and they're multiplying. And God said, now we come to the all-important sixth day, the crown of creation. Let the earth bring forth living creatures, according to their kind, cattle. Now, so you know cattle were important to the ancient Hebrews, because they mentioned them especially, and creeping things and beasts of the earth, according to their kinds. In those days, Canaan, later called Israel, was a swarm with lions and tigers and bears and all kinds of animals. And God made the beasts of the earth according to their kind, and cattle according to their kinds, and everything that creeps upon the ground according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. Now that's only the first half of the sixth day, the sixth time period. Then God said, and now we're getting to the most important words in the Old Testament. And then God said, let us make man bizalmenu kidmatenu, in our image, after our likeness. Now notice he says our. Now the Israelites were very big on absolute monotheism, but they say the our means the plural of majesty. The Queen of England doesn't say I like this, she says we like it. So it's the plural of majesty, which incorporates all the qualities of God. Christians read this and they see in it a hint of the Trinity, a multiplicity in the unity of God. Two interpretations, both valid. But it's interesting that it's a plural. Let us make man after our image, after our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea. So what does it mean to be in the image and likeness of God? There's no more important question in the Bible, or probably in the world. The Bible sometimes explains itself. It says it means to have dominion. As God has dominion over the universe, he gives us dominion over this earth. Now, it doesn't mean we're to misuse it, or use it only for our own convenience, or turn it, as the Pope has said, into a pile of filth. We are to be good shepherds. Good, what's the word? Husbandry? Stewardship. Good stewards of this beautiful place that God has given us. And I'm happy to say that The earth, the air, and the water today are a lot cleaner than they were 50 years ago. And because of changes in converters on cars and various other things, and we have projects to clean up the Hudson River and the Great Lakes and all, we have a long way to go, but it's better than it was. Except, of course, in Los Angeles. You can't see anything. Terrible. And of course, we have to avoid what's happening in China and India, where the pollution is so terrible that people can't even breathe. I remember walking with my grandmother in her late 90s from Temple Emmanuel in New York, a great synagogue where we said prayers on the anniversary of my grandfather's death. And we walked down Fifth Avenue to the Plaza Hotel to have dinner. And we stopped at the corner of 59th and 5th, which is really the town square of Manhattan, of New York. And there are beautiful statues and fountains there, and the Plaza Hotel is a beautiful place. And I said, look at this traffic. The car is the curse of New York. And she said, oh no, it isn't. I stood on this same corner at the turn of the 20th century as a child. And I saw a traffic jam, but it was of horses panicking and trying to climb over each other. And in those days, if you had to stay in New York in the summer, you had to wear a wet surgical mask because the droppings from the horses in the heat would become powdered, and the air was yellow with this horse droppings, and you could hardly breathe. Today, she said, the emission from these cars is nothing like that. This is infinitely better. So it's an example of how technology can actually improve on natural conditions. I mean, what do? We have those wonderful bags for the horses in Charleston, but apparently in New York they didn't think of that. And the place was just an unhealthy place. But even with the emission of the cars, it's a lot better. So we've made progress on this, I'm happy to say. A long way to go, but we've made progress. So to have dominion is to be good stewards of the world, but to be the dominant species over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, and over the cattle and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So that's one meaning of what being in the image and likeness of God is. So God created, but it's not the only one. We're going to see others. So God created man in his own image, man meaning humanity, in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. So it's such an important idea that the author repeats it 3 times in one sentence. When the Bible repeats itself, it's for a reason. And they want you to focus. What does it mean to be in the image of God? Male and female here created together as partners. Not one to be a helper to the other. Not one as an afterthought after creating the other. Both partners together and equal partners. Now, in the Israelite faith, out of which this text came, there is no image of God. You'll go into a synagogue, you will never see a picture of God. You'll never see a human image, because a graven image is forbidden. And the God of Israel is an imageless God. What does it mean to be in the image of the imageless? Now that is a very deep question. To be in the image of the imageless one means that we ourselves are imageless. Meaning no definition, no picture of God is allowed, no statue of God is allowed. A definition of God is like a statue made of words. You can't reduce God to any definition. He is the infinite and the eternal one. And we say he's loving and he's kind, he's compassionate and forgiving. True, but he's also infinitely more. If you have 1,000,000 attributes of God, God is God because there's 1,000,001st one we haven't named. Remember when Paul preached to the Athenians, who were Greek, the Athenians, he said, I noticed that you're very religious people, And you have statues of all the gods in the marketplace. And at the end of the row of statues, you have a plinth, but without a statue on it. And it says, to the unknown God, I come to you in the name of that unknown God. And they immediately understood. Because whatever we say about God, He's God because there's more than we can ever say. He can't be defined. He can't be limited. He can't be reduced to a definition. There used to be a song, Goodbye Ruby Tuesday, who can hang a name on you? Well, who can hang a name on God? The term YHWH simply means the one who has isness, the one who is, the one who shall be, the ultimate being. But that is infinite and eternal. And anything else we say about God could just be a human projection. We don't know. Sometimes He tells us things about Him, but He's always more. Moses in the book of Exodus says, God, I've led these people for 40 years in your name. Let me see your ways. And He says, okay, but you can't look upon my face. So I'll put you in the cleft of the rock, and I'll pass by you, and you won't see my face, but you'll see my back. Apparently He took a human form for this revelation. And then He passes by, and He says to Moses, Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'chanun, Erach apayim v'rav, Chesed v'emet. The Lord, a God merciful and kind and compassionate and doing justice to the third and fourth, to 1,000 generations. And Moses said, all right. Now look, God had defined Himself, but in terms of His relationship to us. He is compassionate. To whom? To us. He's a creator of what? Of us. He's a redeemer of whom? Of us. He's the one who makes all things new. For whom? For us. Everything we can say about God is a relational term. He relating to us. But then, that's not really God in Himself. Moses didn't see the face of God. He said, you can only see my back. And then Moses got greedy. And he said, God, you've shown me your ways, your conduct with man. But I want to see your glory. I want to see your face. And God said, that's cheating. Man shall not look upon the face of God and live. So God hides behind those clouds, and we beg Him, oh God, show us that what we believe about you, we can prove. Prove it to us. We want to know that what we believe is true, that when we pray, we're not talking to ourselves. We believe that, but we don't know it. We believe it here, but we don't know it here. I can't even prove God exists or doesn't exist. Nobody can. Intellectually, we're all agnostics. You can't prove it. But you don't live your religious life with God as intellectually. It's a relationship of love, and you feel the presence, and you know it's real. Well, you know it in a certain sense. When I was at a Mormon meeting of the priesthood, we got into a wonderful discussion about what is it to know God. And because people in the church always stand up and give their testimony and say, I know that God is the true God. I know that Joseph Smith is His prophet. And I know that this church is true. And I challenged them in the priesthood meeting, and I said, you don't know, you believe. And we got into a discussion about knowledge growing out of personal experience and encounter with God. That's a kind of knowledge too. So I now think the Mormons are not wrong. They just mean knowledge sub A. I was talking about knowledge sub B, which is intellectual affirmation. And we still can't prove it's true or not, but we can know it in a deeper sense of personal encounter. And I think there are two senses of knowing. So God, the face of God, is forever hidden. He is the imageless one. Because if we could imagine everything in God, then God would be on human scale. We have to acknowledge everything God has told us about Him is true, but limited. There's always more. And He said to Moses, the greatest prophet of the Old Testament, you can see my ways, but not my face, my back, but not my face. Even you can't. So We have to accept that. So to be in the image of the imageless, it means that we too, if God is undefinable, so are we. Don't let anybody tell you who you are. When people say, that's not like you at all, they don't know who you are. Most of the time, I'm not sure who I am, why I do what I do. But they certainly don't know. But society tries to characterize us and parody us and say, you have children. Well, that's the beautiful one. That's the smart one. That's the one with a sense of humor. And we get characterized by our parents who mean well, but they put us in little boxes. And we're stuck with that definition sometimes all our lives. The great thing about going to college is you can get away from the high school definitions. There's the class clown, the class beauty, the class jerk. But when you go to a new world where you don't know anybody, you can then become what you want to be. How many people use that opportunity? So we have to always fight, I think, against defining us and saying that's the kind of person I am and buying into that definition. We are in the image of an imageless God, and no one can add or subtract from that. In the departments in the university where I've spent my life, the sociologists say man is a social animal, and the Freudians say man is a sexual animal, and the Marxists say man is a cash register, money, everything's money. And everyone has another definition. The religion department which I used to head, said we say man is imageless. The Marxists are right. We have an economic aspect to our life. The sociologists are right. And the Freudians are right. Sex is important, but it's not all important. What's all important is that we are in the image of an imageless God. And we must never allow ourselves to be typecasted. We can destroy ourselves by buying into that. So to me, that's the deepest meaning of this image of God idea. That God is irreducible to a definition, we are irreducible to a definition. God has the aspect of eternity, we have the aspect of eternity. God is part of the infinite life, and he lives in us, and we also can have infinite life and eternal life. So that's the deeper meaning, even beyond having dominion. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him, male and female together he created them, and God blessed them. Now the Bible goes on to further define the image of God. By the first command he gives them. And God said to them, Peru Orvu, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it. And he repeats, have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and every living thing that moves upon the earth. All right. Be fruitful and multiply. He commands them to have sexual union and produce children. First command, fill the earth. So human creativity is also what the image of God means. But of course we create in the obvious way, sexual way, but we also create our civilization. We have tools, and we use them to build buildings and to take the created world and to arrange it into gardens and put trees here and bushes there and grass there. Human beings are born unfinished. Animals are programmed by instinct, but we are born unfinished. We have to finish ourselves by creating a civilization, by creating a human environment, our societies, the world we live in. So God created us, but he didn't finish us. That's up to us. And I think that's also what the image of God means. He is a creator, we must be creators. In every way. Literature, music, civilization, buildings, architecture, poetry, everything. It's all living out the image of God. Yes, sir?
Does the image of God extend to traits? Things, sorrow, anger, happiness, love, all those
well,
things
in the Bible, it's very interesting.
It's a reflection of his own.
I would say in the book of Genesis, yes. We are invited, not so much by this author, but by the J author. We'll see this in the J material, beginning with the Garden of Eden story. We're invited into the inner emotional life of God. God sorrows. God gets angry. We have the power, think of it, we have the power to hurt God or make him smile. Unbelievable claim, but our religion stands on that. He cares so much about us. He so loves the world that he suffers with us. That's the centerpiece of Christianity. But in the Old Testament, you have it too. In Jeremiah, God says, with my people's pain, I feel pain. Would that I could go and have a cabin in the wilderness and get away from the suffering of Israel, but I can't because I love them too much. So the suffering God is very much part of the story of both Old and New Testament. And I would say when we get to the terrible and wonderful and unthinkable story of Abraham asked to sacrifice his own son's life, one of the reasons God asked him to do that was to invite him into the inner life of God, which Kierkegaard described as all suffering and all love. It's all suffering because it is all love. In other words, we come on this earth and we strut and fret our time here and then we die. I think God has to do that to make room for the next generations. But death is still a tragedy. And somebody said no matter a man's life or a woman's life is a book. And no matter how many happy chapters there are, the last chapter is always a tragedy. Now, Vladimir Nabokov said, the cradle rocks above the abyss, and common sense tells us that our life is but a crack of light between two eternities of darkness. Now, religion won't leave it at that and says that's not true, because we have the divine spark in us, and that is eternal. And something of us will survive, whatever that may be. Whether it's our personality, our individuality or not, that divine quality goes on. Maybe merges with God, maybe goes somewhere else, we don't know. But we affirm that eternal dimension of the human. But the God of the Bible is emotionally involved, and therefore we are also to be touched and moved deeply by emotional issues. And in that way, we're also in his image. Yes, I think so. Yes?
Well, going back to what you said in the other version, one of the first emotions that he writes about is shame. So it's part of that.
We can also not follow the image of God. In the Garden of Eden story, the problem is disobedience. You don't have it here. They're totally obedient. Very different view of humanity. Yes, sir, did you have a point?
Yes, right before that, then God said, let us make man in our image.
Right.
Who's he talking to?
Well, I said that it may very well be the plural of majesty. The king or queen says we, never I. Or there may be angels up there. We're going to get to the angels in a minute. There seem to be other heavenly beings there. Pardon me? Yes, what I'm saying, a Christian view is it's the Trinity, the plurality of God in the unity. Now, the authors of this book, I don't think, knew anything about a Trinitarian idea, but it may be implicit in the text. So it's up for grabs. It's very curious that he says we. The Jews say it's the plural of majesty. The Christians say it's the Trinity. And someone else might say it's the angels. Any of it's possible. Well, we weren't here yet. Let us make man in our image.
Yes, because we are a piece of the one.
Mm-hmm.
So it is,
I suppose you could read it that way, yes. It's all up for interpretation, yes.
Would that be a leftover from the heavenly tribunal?
Yes, I think Marduk had a heavenly court of other gods. But of course we have only one God here, so he has a heavenly court, but they're angels. Or some kind of divine beings. Malachim, they're called. All right. Yes, absolutely. This author, Elohim, is a plural tense. El is singular. Elohim is plural. Now the Jews say that means all the qualities of God wrapped into one. And Christians would find in there an echo of the Trinity. So it's, again, depends on how you interpret it. I don't know if there's any right way. It's interesting that we should consider all of them. And God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. In other words, he commands them to have sex. Keeping that in mind, because in the second story, when they discover their sexuality, God is horrified. A very different view of God. And well, of course, both are true. Because when our children discover their sexuality, why do you think there's so much tension when you have adolescent children? Now they can be a mommy, they can be a daddy. They don't need mommy and daddy anymore.